Hi, my name is Alison Edwards, and I chose to do my project on the Palawa people of Tasmania. When I was looking around at groups to research, I kept coming across this one, reading articles and headlines like that the last person of their group had died, and I just thought that was sad, but a little bit interesting about how a group could just completely disappear like that. Fortunately, I did find out that it wasn't true and that the group is still alive, but I just thought that this was probably something that's worth looking into. So basically, I just researched some facts about the group, how they dealt with the European colonizers, and also what their life is like now. And I created a presentation to show what I found. Okay, so this is my project on the Tasmanian indigenous peoples, and they're also known as the Palawa people. My three learning outcomes are group information, interaction with European colonizers, and their current life. So group information is like kind of some just quick facts about their group. Then interaction with European colonizers is just how they met them and then how that ended. And then their current life, I'm just going to talk about what's going on with the group now. So we'll start with group information. So their location. The Tasmanian indigenous people live on the Australian state of Tasmania. So that's the little red section on the map in the bottom. And they originally lived on the mainland, but were cut off by rise in sea level about 10,000 years ago. So they were kind of forced to move down into that little island. So in terms of hunting, they collected sea mammals, vegetables, and shellfish for the most part. And then during the warmer months, they would hunt in the forest, but they moved to the coast in the colder months. So um, they kind of changed it up whatever they ate during like based on what time of the year it was. And to hunt, they use wooden spears, clubs, and flagstone tools for weapons. And they traveled in bands of 15 to 50 people. So the picture that I put on the side here, um, I think that's a kangaroo. So yeah, that just goes to show that they did eat more than what I have on here. So rock marking. So this was a type of art they had. It's defined as the deliberate creation of marks of images on a rock surface by the Aboriginal people in the past. And I got this definition off the Aboriginal Heritage Tasmania website. And they suggested that these were possibly used for ceremonial purposes, or they were used as markers for boundaries between groups or communication. Um, but their specific meanings and functions have been lost over time. Some of these rocks depict human figures and birds, or like this one, it's a tiger, so other animals too. And the paint that they would use was created with animal fat, water, blood, and saliva. These rocks are very rare, and they can tell us a lot about the past Aboriginal cultural landscapes. So, um, interaction with Europeans. So they first met. The first recorded meeting of the British and the Palawa was in 1772. And this picture that I have here depicts that. A permanent white settlement was established in 1803, and then a few years later, an unprovoked attack on the Tasmanians by the British began a movement towards the Black War. So yeah, and then by 1828, a civil war between them had broken out, but that's also known as the Black War. So this war was 1828 to 1832. It was fought between the Palawa and British colonizers. Um, Basically, to try to win this, the British seized hunting grounds, they depleted food sources, they attacked the women, and they killed the men. And so they ended up claiming the lives of 900 Aboriginal Australians. Some historians claim that it should be considered a genocide just based on how they went about it. Um, and yeah, the British attempted to civilize the group, so that we've seen before. The Palawa were exposed to foreign and fatal diseases, much like how the First Nations people were exposed to the diseases and stuff from the Europeans in Canada. Um, the war almost took out the entire population of the Palawa people, and it's estimated that 1,000 people total were killed by the war. So obviously, a lot more Aboriginal Australians were killed. Um, but this war is not recognized as a war by the Australian government because it didn't involve the Australian Army. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Truganini is a woman who is said to be the last full-blooded Tasmanian Indigenous woman. Um, she died in 1876 on May 8th. She survived through the Black War and the mass killing of her people. She unfortunately had to witness the death of her mother by sailors. Her uncle was shot by soldiers, her sister abducted by sealers, and her fiance was murdered by timber cutters. And then after that, she was sexually assaulted by the same timber cutters that had killed her fiance. So it's really, really sad. She was age 17 when her family was killed. And before her death in 1876, she had asked the authorities to have her body cremated so she wouldn't be used for scientific purposes. But against her wishes, they buried her anyways, and 2 years later, her body was exhumed by the Royal Society of Tasmania and put up on display. 100 years after her death, she was actually taken down and then cremated. So it's kind of crazy that it took that long. But she is remembered as a gentle spirit in a brutal time, and her courage and perseverance during these dark times deserves to be remembered. So, present day Tasmanians. Keeping the culture alive. In the 1970s, a movement for Aboriginal rights became more popular. These individuals referred to themselves as Aboriginal people rather than the descendants, because for the longest time, these people were just considered descendants of the actual group, but now they're demanding that they're being referred to as the actual Aboriginal Tasmanians. And the Aboriginal Land Act of 1995 returned control to their community, and now more than 19,000 Tasmanians consider themselves to be Aboriginal. So we can obviously that the culture and the group has grown back a lot since the Black War, which took so many of them. And then here is a list of my resources. So yeah, thanks for watching.